Mom, don't call the police yet. Give me exactly 15 minutes. If you don't hear from me by then, call 911 and ask for Detective Rodriguez at Denver PD. I'm texting you the address now." Those were the words my daughter Sarah whispered into her phone at 1:30 in the morning, Mountain Time, which meant it was 3:30 for me in Atlanta. I'd been asleep, and her voice had that tight, controlled quality that I recognized from when she was a little girl trying very hard not to cry. I sat up in bed, my heart already racing. "Sarah, what's happening? Are you hurt?" "I can't explain right now, Mom. Just trust me. 15 minutes. I have to go." The line went dead. I stared at my phone screen, my hands trembling. Sarah was 32 years old, a pharmacist at a 24-hour Walgreens in Denver. She'd moved there 6 years ago for the job, leaving me alone in Atlanta after her father passed. We talked every Sunday, but our conversations had become shorter over the years. She was always busy, always tired, always apologizing for not having more time. I'd started to wonder if I'd somehow failed her as a mother, if my constant questions about when she'd settle down and give me grandchildren had pushed her away. But this wasn't about any of that. This was my daughter, frightened and alone, asking me to trust her. I looked at my phone again. The text had come through with an address, 2847 Maple Ridge Court, Denver, CO. I opened Google Maps, my fingers clumsy on the screen. It was a residential area, modest homes, quiet streets. What was Sarah doing there at 1:30 in the morning? 12 minutes left. I got out of bed and walked to my kitchen, turning on lights as I went. I needed to stay calm. Sarah had always been the sensible one, the one who thought things through. If she asked me not to call the police, she must have a good reason. But what if she was in danger? What if someone had a gun? What if— "Stop it, Margaret," I told myself. "Trust your daughter." I sat at my kitchen table, phone clutched in my hand, watching the minutes tick by. 10 minutes left. 9, 8. The thing is, Sarah had been drifting away from me for years, and I knew it was partly my fault. After her father died, I'd leaned on her too much, called too often, asked too many questions about her life. When she took the job in Denver, I'd smiled and said I was proud of her, but inside I'd felt abandoned. We'd had words about it a year ago, a terrible phone call where I'd accused her of not caring about family anymore, and she'd said she couldn't live her life trying to make me happy. We'd apologized afterward, but something had shifted between us. Our Sunday calls became shorter, more superficial. When was the last time she'd really confided in me about anything? 7 minutes. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "Still okay. Need more time. Don't call yet." I typed back, "How much more time?" 10 more minutes. "I promise I'll explain everything." So now I had to wait 17 more minutes total, not 15. I got up and paced my kitchen. What could she possibly be doing? I thought about all the worst-case scenarios. Had she gotten involved with the wrong person? Was she doing something illegal? No, not Sarah. She'd always been so careful, so responsible, almost too responsible. That's why she worked night shifts at the pharmacy. The pay was better, and she'd been saving to buy a house. I made myself a cup of tea that I didn't drink. I checked my phone every 30 seconds. The minutes crawled by like hours. Finally, 27 minutes after her first call, my phone rang again. "Sarah?" "Mom." Her voice was different now, still shaky, but with an edge of something else. Excitement? Relief? "I need to tell you what just happened. Are you safe?" "I'm safe. The police are here now. I'm safe." "The police?" "Sarah, what on earth?" "Just let me tell you the whole story, okay? Before you get worried." I sat back down at my kitchen table, my tea cold and forgotten. "I'm listening." Sarah took a deep breath. "About 3 hours ago, well, it's almost 2 in the morning here now, so it was around 11. This man came into the pharmacy. Elderly, Asian, maybe mid-70s. He was confused, Mom. Really confused. He handed me a prescription for his heart medication, but something seemed wrong. Wrong how? The prescription was legit. I mean, it had all the right information, his doctor's name, everything. But the dosage was way too high. Like, dangerously high. I've been a pharmacist for 9 years, And I've never seen anyone prescribe that amount for this particular medication. It would have killed him. I felt my stomach drop. Oh my God. I asked the man. His name's Harold Chen. I asked him who gave him this prescription. He said his grandson picked it up from the doctor for him. But here's the thing. When I looked up his file in our system, I saw that he'd filled this same prescription just 2 weeks ago. The correct dosage. So why would his doctor suddenly prescribe 5 times the amount? You think someone altered it? I knew someone altered it. The prescription pad was real, but the handwriting looked different from the previous prescription. Someone had gotten hold of a real prescription pad and filled it out themselves. Sarah's voice was getting stronger now, more confident, and I found myself sitting forward, caught up in her story. So I told Mr. Chen I needed to verify the prescription with his doctor. I couldn't do that at 11 at night, obviously, but I told him I'd call first thing in the morning. He seemed disappointed but understanding. Then this young guy, maybe late 20s, came rushing into the pharmacy. "Grandpa, there you are," he said. "I told you to wait in the car." The grandson? Tyler Chen. And the second I saw how he was with his grandfather, I knew something was very wrong. He was too controlling, too insistent. He kept trying to take the prescription from me, saying they needed to go to another pharmacy. Mr. Chen looked scared of him. "Sarah, you should have called the police right then." I wanted to, but I needed to be sure. I told Tyler I couldn't fill the prescription without verification, and he got angry, really angry. Started making threats about reporting me to the pharmacy board, saying I was discriminating against them. But Mr. Chen, he caught my eye for just a second and I saw it. He was trying to tell me something. He was trying to say he needed help. I gripped my phone tighter. "What did you do?" Tyler practically dragged his grandfather out of the pharmacy. I watched them get into a car in the parking lot, and that's when I made a decision. I took my dinner break and followed them. "Sarah," I know. It was stupid. But Mom, I couldn't let this go. They drove to a house about 10 minutes away. The address I sent you. I parked down the street and watched. Tyler helped his grandfather inside, but the way he did it, it wasn't gentle. It was rough, almost violent. And then I saw a young woman come out, Tyler's girlfriend, I think. They stood on the porch talking, and I could tell they were arguing about something. "You should have called the police then." "I didn't have any proof." Think about it. What was I going to say? This guy tried to fill a suspicious prescription, and I followed him home? They'd tell me to mind my own business. But I couldn't leave, because I was terrified of what might happen to Mr. Chen once I was gone. Sarah's voice dropped lower. So I did something crazy. I went up to the door and knocked. "Sarah Elizabeth Thompson." "I know. I told them I was from the pharmacy, that I'd forgotten to get insurance information, and could I speak to Mr. Chen for just a moment?" Tyler looked suspicious, but he let me in, and that's when I saw it. Saw what? The inside of that house, Mom. It was like a prison. The windows had bars on them. There were locks on the outside of the bedroom doors. And in the kitchen I saw bottles and bottles of medication, way more than one person should have. It looked like Tyler had been stockpiling pills from various pharmacies. Dear God. Mr. Chen was sitting in the living room, and when Tyler went to get the insurance paperwork he said he'd have to find, the old man grabbed my hand. He whispered, "Please help me. They're trying to kill me for my money. My wife died 6 months ago. Left me everything. Tyler thinks it should be his." I heard Sarah's voice crack. In that moment, I had to make a choice. I could walk away, call the police from a safe distance, and hope they'd do something. Or I could stay and make sure Mr. Chen was protected until help arrived. That's when you called me. That's when I called you. I needed someone to know where I was, in case something went wrong. I told Tyler I had to make a quick call to my supervisor about the insurance, and I stepped outside. I called you first, then I called Detective Rodriguez. He's someone I met a few months ago when the pharmacy got robbed. He told me to keep Tyler calm, keep everyone in the house, and not to put myself in danger. He was on his way. But that was almost half an hour ago. What happened in between? Sarah laughed, a slightly hysterical sound. The longest 25 minutes of my life. I went back inside and pretended to fill out paperwork. Tyler kept hovering over me, getting more and more suspicious. His girlfriend, her name's Ashley, kept whispering to him, telling him they should make me leave. At one point, Tyler's phone rang, and I think it was another pharmacy calling about a suspicious prescription. That's when he figured out I must have reported him. My blood ran cold. Sarah. He blocked the door. Told me I wasn't leaving until I explained why I was really there. Ashley started panicking, saying they should just let me go. But Tyler was furious. He started yelling about how I'd ruined everything, how they'd been so careful. And then Mr. Chen stood up and said, "It's over, Tyler. Your grandmother would be ashamed of you." That must have taken so much courage. It did. And it distracted Tyler long enough for me to get my phone out and hit the emergency button. I'd already set up Detective Rodriguez's number as my emergency contact when I was parked outside. The call connected, and I knew he could hear everything that was happening. What did Tyler do? He tried to grab my phone, and that's when everything got scary. We struggled, and Ashley was screaming, and Mr. Chen was trying to get between us. I thought this might be how it ends, you know? I thought I'd made a terrible mistake by not just calling the police from the parking lot. I was crying now, imagining my daughter in danger, alone, trying to do the right thing. But then I heard the sirens. Multiple cars, coming fast. Tyler heard them too, and he just gave up. Sat down on the couch with his head in his hands. Detective Rodriguez came through the door with 3 other officers. They arrested Tyler and Ashley right there. Thank God. Rodriguez pulled me aside and asked if I was okay. I told him about the prescription, about the medication in the kitchen, about what Mr. Chen had told me. They searched the house and found everything. Fake prescriptions, financial documents showing Tyler had been draining his grandfather's accounts, even a notebook where he'd been planning the whole thing. Tyler had planned to slowly poison Mr. Chen with increasing doses of medication, make it look like the old man had accidentally overdosed himself due to confusion. That's monstrous. It is. But Mom, here's the thing that really got me. Detective Rodriguez asked me why I'd risked so much for a stranger, and I realized I did it because of Dad. I felt my breath catch. Remember how Dad always used to say that the world needs people who'll do the right thing even when it's hard, even when it's scary? I've been thinking about that a lot since he died. I moved to Denver partly to run away from the grief, from watching you grieve. I threw myself into work because it was easier than dealing with feelings. But tonight, when I saw Mr. Chen's face, when I saw how scared and helpless he was, I thought about Dad, about how he would have helped without hesitation. "Your father would be so proud of you," I whispered. "I'm so proud of you. I almost called you back and told you to call the police right away. I almost drove away from that house. I was terrified, Mom. But I stayed because someone had to, and I was the only one who knew what was happening. You saved his life." Detective Rodriguez said the same thing. He said if Tyler had given Mr. Chen those pills, he would have died within hours. They found evidence that Tyler had already been giving him smaller overdoses for weeks, trying to make it look like progressive heart failure. We were both quiet for a moment. I could hear other voices in the background on Sarah's end. Police officers, I assumed, still processing the scene. "Mom," Sarah said finally, "I need to tell you something else." After Tyler was in the police car, Mr. Chen asked to speak to me. He was crying. He said his wife had just died 6 months ago, and he'd felt so alone. His son, Tyler's father, died years ago, and Tyler was his only grandchild. He'd trusted him completely. He said he'd started to think he was going crazy these past few weeks, feeling so sick all the time, not understanding why his medications weren't helping. He thought he was just old and falling apart. How terrible. He thanked me over and over, said I reminded him of his wife, who was also a pharmacist. That's why he'd trusted Tyler when he said he'd picked up the prescription, because Tyler knew it was the one thing his grandfather wouldn't question. But then Mr. Chen said something that made me cry. He said, "Your mother must be very proud to have raised such a good daughter." I was fully crying now, tears streaming down my face as I sat alone in my Atlanta kitchen, thousands of miles from my daughter. "I am proud. I'm so proud, Sarah. I'm sorry if I never said it enough." "You did, Mom." I wasn't ready to hear it. I was so caught up in proving myself, in trying to make my own way, that I pushed you away. That's going to change. I'm going to call more. I'm going to come visit. I'm going to... Excuse me, miss? I heard a male voice on Sarah's end. We need to get your official statement now. Okay, just one more minute, Sarah said to whoever it was. Then, to me, Mom, I have to go talk to the police. But I'll call you tomorrow, okay? Actually, later today. God, it's almost 2:30 in the morning. You should try to get some sleep. Sleep? After all this? She laughed, and it was the first genuine laugh I'd heard from her in years. Fair point. I don't think I'll sleep for a week. But seriously, I'm okay. I'm safe. The police are taking care of Mr. Daughters. Chen. They're calling his daughter in California, and she's flying out tomorrow. She had no idea what Tyler was doing. And Tyler? Going to jail for a long time, Rodriguez says. Attempted murder, elder abuse, prescription fraud, false imprisonment, the list goes on. Good. I love you, Mom. I love you too, sweetheart. So much. After we hung up, I sat at my kitchen table as dawn began to break over Atlanta. I thought about my daughter, standing alone in that house in Denver, making the choice to stay with a frightened old man instead of running to safety. I thought about how I'd been so worried about her not settling down, not giving me grandchildren, not calling enough. All those petty concerns seemed so small now. Sarah called me again around noon her time, 3 hours later. She'd finally left the police station and was at home, exhausted but wired. Mom, I forgot to tell you the craziest part, she said. After they took Tyler away, Detective Rodriguez pulled me aside again. He said the Denver PD has been trying to crack down on elder abuse cases, especially financial exploitation. They've known something was going on with these fake prescriptions, but they couldn't prove anything. My call tonight gave them everything they needed. So this wasn't just about Mr. Chen? No. Tyler was connected to a whole network of people targeting elderly folks with money. Rodriguez said my actions tonight might have saved multiple lives. They're launching a full investigation now. Sarah. Wait, there's more. You know how I work for Walgreens? Well, I got a call from my district manager about an hour ago. Apparently, someone from the Denver PD contacted corporate to tell them what happened. They're giving me a $5,000 reward for protecting customer safety and upholding pharmaceutical ethics. $5,000. I know, but honestly, Mom, the money isn't the important part. Do you know what Mr. Chen told me before the paramedics took him to the hospital to check him out? He said that when his wife was dying, she made him promise he wouldn't give up, wouldn't let the world make him bitter. She told him there were still good people out there. He said he'd lost faith in that after she died, especially when Tyler started showing his true colors. But I proved to him that his wife was right. You did. And Mom, he wants to meet you. When his daughter gets here and they're settled, he wants to take us both out to dinner. He said any woman who raised a daughter like me must be special. I started crying again, but this time they were happy tears. I'd love that. So, I was thinking, I have some vacation time saved up. A lot of vacation time, actually. What if I came to Atlanta next month? We could spend a week together, really talk. I want to tell you about everything. My job, my life, why I've been so distant. And I want to hear about you. About how you're really doing. I'd love nothing more. Good. Because I realized something tonight, sitting in that police station at 4 a.m. Life is too short to let pride keep us apart. Dad knew that. He used to tell me that family wasn't just about blood. It was about showing up when it mattered. About being there, even when it's hard. He did say that. Well, I'm going to start showing up more, Mom. I promise. We talked for another hour. Really talked in a way we hadn't in years. Sarah told me about the loneliness she'd been feeling in Denver, about how her dedication to her career had been partly a way to avoid dealing with her grief over her father's death. I told her about how empty the house felt without her, about how I'd been volunteering at a senior center to fill my time and had actually started to enjoy it. Maybe that's something we could do together when I visit, Sarah suggested. Volunteer somewhere. After tonight, I feel like I want to do more, you know? Help people who need it. That sounds wonderful. 3 days later, I got a call from Detective Rodriguez himself. He wanted to thank me personally for supporting Sarah during the incident. Mrs. Thompson, he said, Your daughter is one of the bravest people I've encountered in my 15 years as a detective. What she did took incredible courage. But she told me she couldn't have done it without knowing you were there on the other end of that phone, waiting, trusting her judgment. I was terrified, I admitted. So was she. But she did it anyway. That's what courage is. He went on to tell me that Tyler had confessed to everything. Facing overwhelming evidence and multiple charges, he'd made a deal with prosecutors. He was going to testify against the other people in the prescription fraud ring in exchange for a slightly reduced sentence, though he'd still be in prison for at least 15 years. And Mr. Chen? I asked. Recovering well. His daughter is moving him to California to live with her. He's already regained some weight, now that he's not being poisoned. The doctors say he's going to be fine. Thank God. Mrs. Thompson, there's one more thing. The story is going to be in the news. Local station wants to interview Sarah. She said she'd only do it if they included you in the story, too. Me? But I didn't do anything. She disagrees. She said you did the hardest thing. You trusted her when she asked you to, even though every instinct told you to call for help. She said that trust gave her the courage to stay. The news story aired a week later. I watched it from my living room in Atlanta, seeing my daughter's face on TV as she calmly explained what had happened. They showed a photo of Mr. Chen smiling with his daughter. They interviewed Detective Rodriguez, who praised Sarah's quick thinking and courage. And yes, they mentioned me. Just briefly. Sarah credits her mother, Margaret Thompson, in Atlanta, with giving her the support she needed to see this through. But it was enough. It was more than enough. Sarah flew to Atlanta a month later, just as she'd promised. We spent a week together, really reconnecting. We visited the senior center where I volunteered, and Sarah charmed all the residents with stories from her pharmacy. We cooked together, watched old movies, talked late into the night about everything we'd been holding back for years. On her last evening, as we sat on my back porch watching the sunset, Sarah said, "You know what's funny? I spent so many years trying to prove I could make it on my own, trying to show you I didn't need anyone's help. But that night with Mr. Chen, I realized something. Needing help doesn't make you weak. Asking for trust doesn't make you dependent. It just makes you human. Your father understood that," I said. "He did. And now I do too." She squeezed my hand. "Thank you for trusting me that night, Mom. Thank you for waiting those 15 minutes, even though I know it must have been torture. Thank you for including me," I said. "Thank you for calling, for letting me be part of it, even from so far away. You're always part of it, Mom." That's what I forgot for a while. But I won't forget again. 6 months later, I was on a plane to Denver. Mr. Chen and his daughter had finally arranged that dinner they'd promised, and they wanted to do it in person. Sarah picked me up from the airport, and as we drove through Denver's streets, she pointed out landmarks, talked about her favorite restaurants, showed me her life. That evening, we met Mr. Chen and his daughter Linda at a small Chinese restaurant that had been a favorite of Mr. Chen and his late wife. The old man looked transformed from the confused, frightened person Sarah had described. He was healthy, smiling, full of life. "Mrs. Thompson," he said, standing to greet me. "I've waited so long to meet the woman who raised such a remarkable daughter. Please, call me Margaret." We spent 3 hours at that restaurant, eating, talking, laughing. Mr. Chen told stories about his wife, about their pharmacy in San Francisco, about the life they'd built together. Linda talked about her relief that her father was safe, her horror at what Tyler had been doing. "I should have visited more," Linda said quietly. "I should have known something was wrong." "You can't blame yourself," Sarah said gently. Tyler was very careful. He knew exactly how to manipulate the situation. But you saw through it. I got lucky. I happened to be working that night. I happened to notice the dosage problem. So many things could have gone differently. But they didn't, Mr. Chen said firmly. "You chose to look. You chose to care. You chose to act. That wasn't luck, dear girl. That was character." As the evening ended and we said our goodbyes, Mr. Chen pulled me aside. "Your husband," he said. "Sarah told me he passed away a few years ago." "Yes. 5 years now. My wife has been gone only months, but already it feels like forever." He smiled sadly. "But I want you to know something. That night, when everything happened, When Sarah stayed to help me even though she was afraid, I felt my wife's presence. I felt her approval. And I think your husband felt the same way. I think he was proud. I couldn't speak. I just nodded, tears streaming down my face. Our children carry us forward, Mr. Chen continued. They take the best of what we taught them and make it their own. Your daughter did that. She honored both of you that night. When Sarah drove me back to her apartment that evening, neither of us spoke for a long time. Finally, I said, "Thank you for sharing this with me, for letting me be part of your life here. Thank you for coming. Thank you for everything." Sarah, can I tell you something? That night when you called, when you asked me to trust you, I was terrified, but I was also proud. So proud. Because I realized that somehow, despite all my mistakes, despite all the times I probably pushed too hard or held on too tight, you'd become this incredible woman who knew how to make hard choices. You weren't a perfect mom, Sarah said with a smile, but you were my mom, and everything good I am, everything brave I can be, comes from you and Dad. That night, I kept thinking, what would Dad do? And the answer was, he'd stay. He'd help, no matter the risk. And what about me? What would I do? You'd trust me. You'd wait, even when it was killing you. You'd believe in me. She pulled into her parking space and turned to face me. You did believe in me, Mom. That's what gave me the courage to stay. We sat in her car for a while longer, mother and daughter, connected by something deeper than miles or misunderstandings. That night, when I'd sat in my kitchen in Atlanta, watching the minutes tick by, terrified for my daughter's safety, I'd felt so helpless. But I understood now that I hadn't been helpless at all. By trusting Sarah, by believing in her judgment, by giving her the space to be brave, I'd given her exactly what she needed. Sometimes the hardest thing a mother can do is let go. But sometimes the bravest thing she can do is hold on, not by controlling or demanding, but by being there, waiting on the other end of the line, ready to call for help if needed, ready to trust if asked. That night, Sarah and I had both done the hard thing. And because we had, a man's life was saved, a criminal was caught, and a family was healed. Not just Mr. Chen's family, ours too.